Hello, and welcome to Hopeful Conversations, brought to you by Robbie's Hope Foundation. I am your host, Kari Eckert. Joining me today is Nicholas Goodwin. Nick recently graduated. I just cannot talk. Nick recently graduated from Wheat Ridge High School outside the metro area of Denver in May 2023. He's currently taking a gap year and will be studying next fall at CU Boulder. Nick is about to begin a backpacking adventure through Europe with friends this spring. Nick's twin brother, Johnny, passed away February 2021 by suicide. We welcome Nick today to share his story with youth mental health. Thank you for joining us and welcome to Hopeful Conversations.
Hi.
How are you today, Nick?
I'm doing pretty well. Kind of cold, but I'm sure everybody is.
It's cold here in Denver in January, yes. Nick, can you share with us your journey with mental health and how that affected your high school experience?
Yeah, so we had COVID my freshman year of high school. Bit more context. I went to a Montessori school. It's a little bit different kind of school. So going to Wheat Ridge High School was a bit of a change for me. And then everything got turned upside down in, I think it was March. And then we all got sent home. We didn't really know what it was. And then we kind of started that hybrid online type of schooling. And then our sophomore year is when it was like 2 days in the building, 2 days online, or however it was split up. And I was, we were kind of taking turns going into school, and like we had a whole program, me and my brother Johnny. And then we would take turns going to school and stuff like that. We had a whole system for getting up. And then in February of our sophomore year, so 2021, he passed away.
Was Johnny's date of death February 4th?
Yep.
I remember that because that's when I met your family. And February 4th is my dad's birthday. And I was very close with my dad. So kind of stuck in my mind. I'm very sorry about the loss of Johnny. I know.
Thank you.
It's I imagine as a twin, very, very difficult. And as a 16-year-old when that happened, and something that you're going to carry with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you want to tell us about Johnny?
He was a character. We were twins, obviously, and we were very, very close in many ways, but then in other ways we were just extremely different. He was a very outgoing person, very like you either loved him or you despised him because just the way that he would act towards you. But it was a lot of love. He was a character. He loved to push buttons. He loved being like the center of attention or just being like exciting and being there, and he always was. Yeah.
Did you think he was struggling with his mental health prior to his death?
I would say maybe a little bit, but it's kind of hard to like look back and kind of see that, and because you don't realize anything at the moment. Because I felt like we were all kind of going through something, and we were both. I still felt really young, but I would say a little bit, yeah.
Usually people who are struggling are pretty good at disguising what they're feeling, and just it's not often easy to express. So that's probably pretty typical. In February 2021, COVID was still very, very much something we were learning to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What advice do you have for someone else who has lost someone close to them to suicide, sitting here almost 4 years out?
Just kind of like not accepting it because nothing you can do can change it, but you can change the person who you are after it. It doesn't need to be something that defines you. It can be something that you kind of grow from, which I really tried to like embody these past couple years with my life. Something that really helped was just kind of like feeling normal, and like that jump from going because right after it, I just decided to make the switch to full online for the rest of that sophomore year. So it felt really nerve-wracking going back to school that junior year, that third year.
A fall, like 6 months
hmm
later.
Yeah, because that was like my first, it felt like a different high school. It felt like the first day of school for me, honestly, because everything was different. I still had the same friends, but I had more friends, and like I felt like so much had happened, and I was scared of people looking at me, and like me having that label of, oh, like I feel really bad for this kid because of this. Oh, that's the kid whose brother passed away. Those were the labels I was scared of, but just kind of not letting that get in the way and just kind of doing your own thing, spending time with people who don't look at you or who don't make you feel that way is important, but just trying to grow from it as best you can.
I'm sure that wasn't easy.
No, no, it wasn't. Didn't seem to be.
I can relate with the whole letting it define you. Like, are you Johnny's brother? Are you Nick? Are
hmm
you a lost survivor? Like, what what are you wearing right now?
I mean, just because I am Nick and who I am, because he's always going to be a part of me. He's my other half. So I'm never going to let that define fully who I am, but that, like, at my roots, that is who I am.
Yeah, yeah. What do you wish people better understood about mental health?
Um, just kind of like, yeah, less of like a stigma around it. And I'm not sure, like with my experience, obviously everybody goes through mental health and can experience like difficulty with their day-to-day lives, but I think what's overlooked a little bit is in like the male perspective. Like it's kind of hard. Like it's just hard to have it be seen as something that's not like a that it's a struggle and not a like a weakness or a flaw. Is something that I really struggled with. And like to kind of like combat that, I would just try my very best to like not wear it out on my sleeve amongst people who I didn't feel like secure with. So like I would really try to put on like a mask or like a face, and then like around the people who I was like comfortable with. So like pretty much my sister, my mom, my dad, and a handful of friends. They would pretty much just be like a safety net or like a mask to put over.
Those people you can be more comfortable and vulnerable with,
hmm
be more real. Do you feel like in school, I've like being a product of a public education, did the state teach you anything about mental health?
Um, Not really, but it's also kind of hard to look back because when you're learning these things and like these different like either like if it's a video or if it's just like a quick little blurb about if you're struggling, like talk to someone, whatever it is, you don't really think of it as something that you're ever going to need or use. So it's kind of hard to like put anything that's told you into like effect because you just never expect something like this to happen to you. But yeah, so even if something was taught to me, it's kind of hard to put that into effect.
I can relate to that. I can't relate to that because I went to school a gazillion years ago, but I like the way that you put that in. Like you don't know because it
hmm
affects you differently when you actually need it. And so that's a good just thing to remember because I always think, oh, the schools are doing such a bad job. They're not teaching kids about mental health, but maybe they are, and we're just not completely aware. Uh,
I mean, I don't know if I would say that they would be doing a good job, but it is hard. Like what they are giving, it's hard to use that as it's hard to like quantify it, if that makes sense a little bit. Just because you even if something is told to someone or a policy is put into effect or whatever it is, it's really hard to see the effect on, I would say, a large majority just because of the stigma. Yeah.
what can we do to remove those stigmas?
Um, I would say just talking about it more and having more like open conversations and having it just being careful on like what you say and how you say it. Like different things change. Like I know something, I learned this pretty early on, just like how you talk about what happened is a big thing, or was a pretty big thing for me. And if it's like I had learned that something to say was died by suicide rather than saying like committed suicide, killed themselves, or like whatever it might be, how they say it. It just like the harshness on how someone were to bring it up. I think that's a big thing too.
Hmm. Kind of the energy that and how you were carrying it to other people allowed them to respond to you in a way that was probably helpful for both you and the person who didn't really know what to ask or what to say.
Yeah, and it's hard because not a lot of people know how to approach things like that. So I think you were actually the one who I learned this from the most when you came to visit our family. It was just like giving everyone like a level of grace. Like you just look into it. Like that was something that was really big that I remembered. It was just giving everyone a level of grace that if someone were to say something that was really offensive or really hurt you, you just kind of take a step back and look and see like what their intent was behind it. Like if someone says, um, someone who happens to be like maybe like very religious would say like, oh, like they're in a better place. And like obviously like to them they're trying to make peace and like let you know that that the person you've lost is at peace. But to you, you're like, no, the best place for them is like right here with me. But you just kind of look at their intent, which was a really important thing that helped me a lot.
Do you apply that lesson even now in situations that don't necessarily apply to losing your brother, but just more like day to day life? Like I mean, people, I guess, do you or no?
Yeah, I would say that I really try to because it was such like an important thing that I had to embody like pretty much every day for months or like years of my life, just giving somewhat people levels a level of grace. But like it helps with any emotion that's brought to an extreme. Like if you're really angry with someone, you kind of step back and you can look at, oh well, they feel this way because of that, and they meant this. They're not meaning me harm. So it is very useful, and I do use it, I would say.
Yeah, I think before losing Robbie, I felt like, I don't know, like working with Grace has been a big topic for me. Like people aren't out to hurt me. I don't know why I kind of viewed the world that way because I really don't believe people are.
Hmm.
Um, and now as a like 5 years out, I try to give myself more grace too. How does that sit with you?
I would say it's still like a thing that I'm trying to learn how to do, but I do see it as important. Just grace is a very important lesson overall, but it is
Yeah,
hard to kind of accept it on a two-way street.
absolutely it is. What do you can you share with me like now that you're a high school graduate, but like the pressures of like we like put on young people on sophomores, freshmen, juniors, and seniors, like the pressure. You were an athlete and academics are very important. You're a good student. I know that. What kind of pressures? How does that make you end up feeling?
Um, it really like depends on kind of like the system built around the individual, I would say. But it can be it's a lot of pressure, and it seemed like if you take a step back and if you're not in that situation, it doesn't really seem like a lot. But to like a 15 or 16-year-old sophomore, like their sports and their friends and maybe like the grades that they're getting, especially if they're locked in their house for COVID and kind of isolated, is like it's a lot of pressure. Or because you don't know anything else, so everything to you seems so big and everything seems so large, and any move you make, anything you do is just blown up in your head.
Hmm. Did that get better as you progress through your high school career? Was that less as a senior, like with more experience?
Um, I would say that ways of coping with it got a little bit easier, but there's definitely still a lot of pressure. And it might be like self-inflicted pressure at some points, but ways of dealing with it gets easier when you kind of learn how you like deal with things as a person and how you conquer things and tackle different challenges.
Yeah. But when you're 14 and 15, we don't have a lot of tools in our toolbox to be able to process
No.
any of that. What
Hmm.
about social media? Where does that come into play?
Uh, I think social media it can be really harmful. One thing I'm really thankful for is like my parents I wasn't allowed to have like Instagram or Snapchat or even a phone until I was 14. I think I was like the year before high school when I got all of that. And I was pretty happy, but just like looking at other people and I just think it can be very detrimental if it's not like introduced in the right way and just like how things are portrayed. And I don't know, I think it can have really harmful effects on like how you think that you're portrayed, on how other people perceive you. And if you're a young kid who has maybe like self-esteem issues, it's a hard thing to kind of throw into the mix and deal with.
That constant comparison of yourself to others. What about
Mhm.
bullying? Is bullying still like a social media? Are those two related?
I think they definitely can, and then, but I feel like for me, I feel like it's not labeled as like it wouldn't be labeled as bullying, but what it would be, it would act like it would be that, but no one would label it as that because no one wanted to be that person or that incident or whatever it is.
Huh. What would you label it as?
I would label it as bullying, but I would say not a lot of people would.
People just being nasty and using what's available to them in a harmful way.
But I think that it's just kind of like it's built on a lot of like if for that person who would be the bully would I think it would be based on their insecurity and they don't view as like what they're doing as harmful or bullying and that's their way of coping with their insecurity. So that's not how they view it.
You just define bullying from what I know. Like bullying is like the bullier is the person who it's about power and insecurities. And it's usually the person bullying is the one with the insecurities.
Yeah.
Um, how have you found like good coping strategies to take care of yourself as a 19-year-old male who lost their twin brother and is doing pretty well?
Um, I would say just like taking a step back, and it's definitely been like a struggle for me, just kind of like taking a step back and accepting help because I felt like I had so much help was like maybe not like provided, but like said that it could be given or like it was available when things had happened to kind of like that I had felt so helpless. So it's kind of hard to like accept help. But I would say like trying to accept help and like understanding that there are people there who mean well with you, like those people in your life who you can have those conversations with. Just like really accepting help and taking a step back and like allowing yourself to heal and grow and not needing to be this like pillar of strength that you like have set in your mind and that it's okay. Well, it's okay to not be okay. One of your guys' things, but that it's okay to accept help.
Was it hard initially to accept help?
Yeah, like at first you can't really like control. At least for me, I couldn't really like control because it was just so large to me that I just kind of would express myself however I needed to in that moment. But then as I got more aware and more time afterward came, I definitely would put up walls and like my parents wanted me to see like to talk to people so they knew that I was okay because like rightfully so they were pretty worried about like the whole family. But that was something I was not a fan of. That was really hard for me to kind of accept.
Yeah. A pillar of strength. That's a strong, that's tough. It's taking a little breath here. It's so like this is tough. Like this is a hard conversation. I think partly because my heart just like hurts for you as a sibling and as a twin and like as a young person that you're carrying what I carry. It's very um I mean I sit with other mothers that have lost their children, but to see a sibling I think is just a little bit different for me. So I apologize for my humanness and
That's
my
okay.
being vulnerable there. I remember meeting you. I met you the day after your brother died.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, I don't know how we had that conversation. Came over and sat with your family and just tried to, I don't know. You guys were very loving and open and wanting to learn. And
Hmm.
you remember that day?
I do, because I really remember one of the things that you had. I don't know if you said it directly to me. I think you were just kind of talking to all. We were all talking to you, but when you just said like, look at people's intent, that was something I really took, and I really tried to do. Like, I think I had to incorporate later that day, or like the day after. But it was good because I didn't feel we didn't feel as alone seeing you guys there, and you guys were really great just talking to us. And my parents, one of their thing was they wanted to be as open as possible, and they're like we're not going to hide anything. Like we want this, we want to tell the story, and we want people to understand,
Hmm.
and not to hide anything was something that they were big on.
Yeah. I think being truthful is an easier path to take. I think hiding would be a very difficult um, thing to carry. That's my opinion. Do
Hmm.
you remember like when Johnny died? Like how clear? Like did you have complete moments of just clarity that you look back on now and be like, how did my mind work that way?
Um, I, I I'm not entirely sure.
No.
Clarity wise, it all feels like a blur, but then again, like you think back on it, and I can because it's a hurtful thing to kind of like go back and revisit. So it's kind of a thing that you kind of like put away, but you don't want to put away too much because you don't want to forget anything. And I don't know, but definitely like I do understand where what I was thinking, but it kind of like when I look back on it, it kind of like breaks down who I think I am, kind of in a way, like with the people I'm closest to. I was really able to open up, and I got like I wasn't as close with my sister before that had happened, and we got very, very close afterward. And I was always pretty close with my parents, but we all just kind of like clung to each other, which was a good thing, and I was happy that I was able to be that way with them and be that open with them.
Yeah. So how do you feel being a recent high school graduate?
Feels weird. Feels very weird, but I'm not sure. It feels weird, but we're moving on. So
What was the catalyst to take a gap year and go and see Europe?
um I'm not entirely sure. I remember I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was going to do something in Europe with some program, and I thought that was really cool. So I went home and I asked my parents if it was something that they would consider, and they said maybe. And then I like gave them more information, and they ended up putting down some rules. They were like, you need to be deferred from a school. You need to be signed up. You need to be enrolled, accepted. Everything needs to be done, and you have to have a plan to go back. And I was like, deal. I'm good with that.
That was an interesting step your parents had for you. I like that
Yeah,
because
because
you're not just going to stay over there because you might like it so much.
no, I won't. I won't.
Does
Hopefully,
it
that's what I'm telling myself now.
does it feel like compared to I'm sure most of your friends went right to college. How does it feel different? Or like do you feel like next fall when you go to school, what are some of the differences or goals you might have?
With like seeing all my friends go to school, and everyone who I've like kind of grown up with and grown with these past couple years all be at school. at like the very beginning, like just like for me personally, it was pretty hard because I feel
Oh,
like me as a person, I know what I want to do when I go to school and I have all these plans, but then I did do this gap year for a reason, and it's kind of I kind of lost sight of that at the beginning of this first semester. But I'm hoping that it'll give me like perspective on that fall next year to kind of allow me to like grow and do what I need to do and just know a little bit more about who I am. And like going out of my comfort zone so far as like traveling like that, I'm just hoping that I'm able to learn a little bit from it.
wonderful. Travel allows us to learn a lot. Um, Goodness. What would you tell your 15 or 16-year-old self in high school that you've learned
Um,
now?
I would pretty much tell him that the world's not going to stop for anybody. Sun comes up no matter what. Um, and that if you want to be and you surround yourself with the right people, they can definitely help you get to a place that you're happy with.
Nick, we end every podcast with the same question. What does the world need to hear right now?
Love each other. Be open. And then just try to be like the best you that you can be.
Good advice. I appreciate your time today being a guest on Hopeful
Yeah, thank you.
Conversations. To our listeners, remember to tune in next time. And until then, remember hope. Hold on. Pain ends.